So maybe while we wait on anybody else to make it into our space, maybe just doing a quick check-in. So you can either type in chat, you can turn your video on, whatever feels right. Just kind of, how are we? We're doing great. We're doing so-so. We're doing really crappy, or something in between. How is everyone? It's been 2 weeks somehow already since we've been together. Doing great. I love that, Jaden. Good. Much better. Good, Brittany. Good, good. Good, good. While I wait for some more to come in, I'll say I'm about right here, which is uncharacteristic for me. I usually am a okay, wonderful, Patricia. Usually a pretty happy camper. I've just got some Kim, I love this, full of joy. It's how we're intended to be. Busy day and looking forward to talking about meditation. Okay, me too. I'm definitely looking forward to the practice supporting all of us, myself included. Above average, Andy. I'll take that all day long, all day long. My personal life has some disruption right now, and just noticing how I relate to that, noticing old tendencies, meaning the old way the nervous system used to respond. Some of those things have kind of tried to creep in to my thinking, my actions. I'm so very grateful for my practice because I'm aware of that. I have the capacity and a little space between the thought and the actual action. So that impulse control that the practice naturally builds is serving me. I'm getting the benefit of that right now. So I'm very grateful for that. Any other reflection on how everyone's doing? Thank you for the shares that have made it into chat. Overall, a pretty good space is what I'm seeing right now. I like it. Okay. So, welcome. We are in our third week of a 4-part series. But guess what, you guys? In 3 days, it will have been 1 month since our first joining. I was just talking to Beth, going, I can't believe it's been almost 1 month since our first joining. And so, what kind of gets me a little pumped up about that is anybody who has taken my invitation to practice once a day, every day, as part of this series means that you could potentially be approaching 30 days of practice. Um, I'm wondering if there is anybody in our space right now that has almost 30 days of practice under their belt. And that doesn't mean if you missed a day here or, there, that this doesn't count for you. But is there anyone in the space that has been fairly committed to practicing every day for almost 30 days now? Okay, I've got Kim with her hand in the air. I love it. Patricia, yes. Okay, Kim or Patricia or anyone, would you like to share if you're noticing any byproducts of practice?
Let me make sure that I'm unmuted here. Yeah, I wouldn't say that it's been perfect, but definitely, I was on the road when it started, so just need
Yeah.
to. Um, so yeah, I mean, definitely thinking overall.
Yeah, yeah. Thank you. And what's so lovely? Yes, Patricia, please share.
And what I've noticed for me at least is how fast I can go into the once I start my breathing aspect, the physiological, my muscle just immediately like woof down, and the halo effect aspect of it, how every time I do it, it's just lasts longer.
Yeah, not lovely. Our body is so willing and ready, right? And the relief, yeah. So I think you may have maybe heard me say this at least once. If we get a calming effect in our practice, or if we feel nourished in practice, very cool. But my favorite part about practice is really kind of the byproducts, the benefits that kind of slip into everyday living. the ability to notice when we're going up. And if you remember the window of tolerance from the last joining, if we're going out of our window, either up or down, we can begin to notice that a little more quickly now. And this is our new point of empowerment. So our self-awareness is our new point of empowerment. And then as we practice once a day, every day in our own protected time, this gives us the skill to use micro practices then while we're out in the world when down regulating or up regulating will serve us in whatever the task before us may be. So really being able to kind of keep our footing a little bit better in these moments that matter most. That's one of my very favorite things about the practice. Any other reflection on anybody who has had, somewhat of a consistent practice since we've started? Are you guys noticing it show up in any way in day-to-day living? No problem, Emily. I'm glad you're back in. I'm glad you're back in. Okay. Well, listen, I will leave that out there as a standing question. Jaden shares, I've been able to do it since daylight saving. Yes, before work, and I've seen improvements. Okay, very good. Keep going, Jaden. I love that. I love that. And actually, I just had a share. I'm working with a few different groups of teachers right now in different cohorts. And I had one teacher from a group recently report that the weekends are the trickiest. And I relate to that because our weeks, we get very routine. We kind of know, like, if we're getting this in, it's going to be in the morning, it's going to be part of a routine. And then we get to the weekend, and quite often we might feel like we might have a little more breathing room, or it doesn't have to be so early, or I can get to it, later when I want to get to it. And honestly, those weekends can be tricky because all of a sudden it's 5 or 6 p.m. You realize you haven't practiced, and then you think, okay, well, maybe I'll just wait until tomorrow. So I don't know if anybody else is experiencing weekends as tricky, but I did get some feedback from other educators recently, closer to 15, pretty solid. Oh, and now I'm grounded. Okay, great. So by that, Amber, I think you mean 15 minutes? 15 minutes? That's pretty, if so, 15 days. Okay, great. Okay, great. And so 2 full weeks. So burning through the hard part of the habit, remembering that creating new habits takes resources. The body is by design created to preserve our resources. So there is this initial kind of, no, I'm going to resist this new item in life until we stay really committed. 2 weeks gets you through a big part of the brunt of that. Another 2, and that habit is now kind of established in the system. So keep going. That's really awesome. Really awesome. This is how we're going to spend our time today. We're going to do an opening practice together. And then we have some content related to nervous system health that will build on the last 2 topics that we've had. So we'll continue to build on window of tolerance. And then we will have an opportunity to talk through our trauma sensitive discussion topic and our tips for new skills in the classroom. I think that Beth did share with everyone that I did separate recordings on those 2 topics from our first 2 joinings because they weren't explicitly addressed. We did some things to kind of point to different aspects of them, but I have 2 very short recordings in there to speak to the topics from week 1 content and week 2 content. So we'll spend some time on that today. And then here's the fun news. For those of us who really need a good soothing break, our closing practice today will be a little bit longer, and it will be a body scan. So we'll have a good opportunity really to let ourselves kind of relax and enjoy and sink into a practice that will be about 10 minutes, maybe even just a little bit longer, depending on how we do with our time today. Does that sound good? Anybody have questions about practice? One of the things I want to make sure of before we do our opening practice is I want to make sure that everyone knows what to do when you sit down to practice, meaning you have a skillful way to begin. You've got a space kind of designated, you've carved out protected time, you go to sit down. Do you all feel that you know what you're doing when you sit down to practice? You can even use your thumbs up or thumbs down on feedback. Oh, mine's showing up. Amber, okay, good. Megan, yes, good, good. In general, that's a yes. Okay. So thank you, mostly Kim. Okay, I'm going to just share briefly, in part for review. When we sit down to practice, remembering that our definition is paying attention in the present moment on purpose, and then during our practice, suspending judgment to the extent that we can. But really, what we're looking to do is anchor our attention to something available in the present moment. Every time we do this, it sends blood flow to the prefrontal cortex, strengthening the PFC, and also getting online our decision-making, executive function, and emotion regulation. This stimulates the vagus nerve, the nervous system itself, and we begin to get a regulatory effect in our system. Practicing once a day, every day, lays new neural pathways so that over time our system knows where we're looking to go on purpose. So it's a little easier to access over time, that regulated state. And again, simply by anchoring to something that's available to us in the present moment. That's what puts that prefrontal cortex online, sends blood flow to the PFC. Give me a thumbs up if you're with me. Okay. Okay. I see a few. Okay, the emoji thumbs are coming out. I like it. And if there's any question or yeah, but right now, I want to have space for that. So if anybody has questions or you're bumping into challenges when you go to practice, remembering that the intellectual understanding of what we're doing here is cool, but it's not enough. It's the experience of practice that gives us the transformation, the health benefits, all the things that we've been talking about here in these last couple weeks. So is there any questions right now about practicing? I want you skilled by the time we're done with our 8 weeks in the practice itself. That's my goal. Okay, real good. It's a standing question. We can return to it anytime if anybody does have something come to mind. For now, why don't we do a practice together? Our opening practice will be about 4 minutes, give or take. We are going to be working with sound as an anchor for our attention. So just inviting you to get into a comfortable position. Thank you, Emily. Inviting you to get into a comfortable position. If you're seated, sitting upright yet relaxed, remembering that upright posture signals to the system that we're here for a practice. Or you may practice standing up if that feels more comfortable for you, just exploring what feels right. Allowing the eyes to close if it feels safe and secure and supportive. If not, you may simply downcast your gaze. And to begin, we'll just follow 2 natural cycles of the breath in our own mind. And inviting awareness now to identify one sound in the environment. And as we do this, we're not hunting anything down too hard. Simply opening our awareness to discover one sound. And that first sound that you've come across might be just perfect to work with. And as we have this sound identified, we'll call this our anchor. As we look to anchor our attention to the sound. As we do, we may become curious about the qualities of the sound. Noticing if it's steady. Is it nearby or far away? there any rhythm to it? Allowing ourselves to stay connected to the anchor of the sound. Just exploring the qualities of the sound. And as we practice, our thoughts will tend to wander. And each time we notice that they have, just becoming aware of where the mind tends to go. Noticing the nature of our thought. Maybe supportive to put a label on it. I'm organizing. I'm blaming, whatever it may be. Allowing those to pass to the extent that we can, and gently returning attention back to the anchor of the sound. And I'll let my voice drop for a 1-minute period of silence. So we practice holding our attention to the anchor of the sound. And as we practice, our thoughts may wander. Each time we notice this has happened, just noticing the nature of our thinking, getting the observer quality, not getting too attached, allowing it to pass, and then gently returning back to the anchor of the sound. And this is the practice. And we'll look to bring our practice to a close, inviting awareness back to the breath. And together in our own minds, following one natural cycle of the breath. And as we feel ready, beginning to blink eyes and bring awareness back into our environment. And as we do, becoming aware of the anchor of the sound with eyes open, practicing the quality of awareness with eyes open as well. Thank you for your practice. It was a good, almost 5-minute practice, I think. About 5 minutes. Any reflection on that practice? Do want to share that anytime we reflect in our own mind, yeah, Patricia, is a nap time. Listen, I would never tell you no. That's the thing. Emily, yeah, good. Okay, so listen, if it feels like nap time or it made anyone sleepy, remembering that practice for bedtime if you ever struggle with sleep. I do work with a lot of people that kind of name sleep and their sleep patterns as, a problem. They're wanting that good rest, digest, repair. So if that was something that almost, made you want to sleep or fall asleep, disconnected Jaden, good. Okay, I love that. So you were deep enough in the practice that you weren't sure if you were still connected online. Yeah. Okay, good. So for those of you, so far the feedback that I see right now and the reflections in chat, to me, that would mean keep that practice in your repertoire. Keep that as something that you revisit and that you use in your own personal protected time. Um, Now, if it had an adverse effect on anybody, meaning if it was more irritating or agitating, you may try it on your own once to explore if it could still be supportive. If it is not 2 times in a row, then just set working with sound aside for a little while, maybe just a month or two. You can revisit it. We're really looking to identify through these practices and through our reflection, we're looking to build our skill and practice. And then we're looking to reflect on what does feel supportive and nourishing for us so that we may do more of that. We may do more of that in our own protected time, and then we can do micro practices with these while we're out in the world. So, for example, sometimes I was just recently in a situation where I was at the grocery. I was out of time. I should have planned better than what I did. I was about to have company at the house, and I was literally in line, can't change what my circumstances are. I've got to wait it out. And I could feel like everything kind of tensing up in my shoulders and in my system. I knew for sure how I was relating to it. So I decided to do a sound practice. So I just literally let my gaze drop and I just found one sound in the grocery store because there was plenty, and I connected my awareness to the anchor of the sound, which put my prefrontal cortex back online. So my right use of thinking was coming back online, my emotion regulation, so I could at least be more comfortable as I was going through the, stressful part of not being on time for the people that I had coming to the house and so on. Does this make sense? We're looking to build these skills so that we can use them when we're out in the world, so that we're mitigating these, stress responses where otherwise we might be going really high, really low. We can still bump into things that are stressful, but we're doing it with a little bit more ease, and the body's not taking the hit from the physiological response from fight, flight, or freeze. So if you're finding these things to be supportive, remember them, work with them. If they do not feel supportive, set them aside for a little bit. You can always try them again later after your practice continues to change and grow. Our practice is always changing and growing too, by the way. So any questions or other reflection on practice? Pat, do you have your hand up? Yes.
Yes, I
Please.
did. Why would one of these practices actually cause some sort of whether agitation or why? I I can't even imagine why. So I'm just curious with that.
So we all have different pasts, different experiences. For example, the practice that we worked with today, perhaps there was some type of low bass tone in someone's environment, and a low bass tone can trigger low bass tone for a nervous system that is not um, embodied, regulated. A low bass tone could actually be interpreted as predator threat. So it could be an environment thing. It could be um, the sound that we were working with. It could be um, really wasn't prepared to sit and do a practice. So so much of what we're talking about is how we're relating to. And so it could even be that the way somebody is relating to me personally could be triggering in some way. There are all kinds of things that quite often we don't always know where they're coming from, but the majority of the time, if it's agitating, irritating, it's coming from something from the past that is kind of being induced now, or it's an old feeling or experience in the nervous system. I hope that makes sense. You moved on my screen here. Did that make
Yes.
sense a
Yes, it
little
did.
bit?
Thank you.
Yeah, yeah, you're welcome. So really it's such a great question too, because we're really talking about nervous system health and the condition of our nervous system. And our nervous system is always looking for cues of threat or cues of safety. This is inherent in us. We don't have to willfully do this. Our nervous system is doing this. But our nervous system state and the health of our nervous system overall impacts that too. I don't think I've shared the title of this book yet. Forgive me if I have, but it doesn't hurt to hear it twice if so. The Body Keeps the Score by Bessel van der Kolk. Have I mentioned that? Yeah. So that's a great read. It's a heavy read. It's a great read. And it talks a lot about this trauma and the way the body actually holds experiences sometimes to where our body can detect something. This will come up a little bit today in our topic, detect something, and we're not necessarily explicitly aware that our body is detecting something that doesn't feel safe. And quite often these things come from the past. So the body keeps the score. I mean, the body holds on to stuff. Our mind might be saying, I'm willing to get past it, but the body still has these imprints and these impacts from our past. Any other questions or reflection? Okay. So I want to talk this evening about the skill of interoception. And quite honestly, interoception is maybe one of the greatest skills. I believe that our greatest attribute is our ability to direct our attention where we want to on purpose. That is one of the greatest attributes that we have as humans, the ability to focus our attention where we want to on purpose. One of the greatest skills that we can develop with that is interoception. And interoception simply means our ability to drop our awareness into the body, into physiological sensation, and begin to get information from the body's physiological responses, the things that the body is telling us. So, our nervous system is a bidirectional communication system, and we've got information that goes from the brain to the body. And then we also have much more information coming from the body to the brain. And I'm not saying it's all of us, but our society in general is kind of walking around as a neck up society, thinking our way through everything and kind of going on to that next thing all the time. And either, like we said, week one, thinking too much about the past, or worrying or thinking too much about the future. And to the extent that we can begin to build in the skill of interoception, we can begin to connect our awareness to what information our body has going on and is giving us information at all times. And we can begin to then meet our needs in a different way. We can begin to tend to ourselves in a different way. And if we remember the content from our last joining, the window of tolerance, we can begin to notice with much more skill this the awareness of either leaving our window going into a hyper aroused response, or if we're leaving our window and going into a hypo aroused response. So the skill of interoception supports us in this work, keeping in mind when we become aware, that's our awareness practice, a new point of empowerment. The next skill we use is self-regulation. We can then begin to use our skills to either down-regulate if we know that's going to support us in staying in our window, or up-regulate if we're needing to do that. Does this make sense? And or does anybody have any questions? We're going to do a couple practices to begin to work with this just a little bit, but any thoughts or reflection on just in general understanding interoception? Okay, so one of the first things that I would like us to do is actually begin to develop a skill for a baseline check. And a baseline check is going to be taking an opportunity to notice level of activity in our mind, so our mental activity. And then we will do a baseline check to check the level of activation in the body. And we'll explore different places that we can explore in the body for this. I'm going to invite us to work with a scale of 1 to 10. And if we remember the window of tolerance from last week, do you think I need to pull it up? If anybody feels like I should pull that back up to look at, give me a thumbs up and I'm happy to pull it up. If you think we're just fine with, okay, Kim, I will. I'll do that. I'm going to just grab the screen here really quick, Beth. And we will look at please be in here. Bob? Yep. Okay. Can you guys see this okay? Okay, great. So the window of tolerance here, if we're working on a scale of 1 to 10, and we're looking to identify level of activation, level of energy, level of activity in the mind and the body, we'll call this very bottom line here in the dark blue a 1. More of, from the perspective of a window of tolerance, a hypoaroused state. We'll call this very middle 5, and we'll call the very top red 10. So you guys have heard me reference my story enough to know that there was a period of life where I was rolling around like an 8, 9. Yeah. And that over time, if you spend enough time in that hyper aroused state, the yellow line begins to kind of, move. There we go. The yellow line begins to kind of move up to where my regular state, what felt, quote, normal to me, was kind of hanging out up here. And then to even have, relaxed, joyful moments, that started to feel different. Then my nervous system would start again being hyper vigilant to other people's guilt. I hope this makes sense. But really what we're looking to identify on a baseline check is level of activation, level of energy in the mind, level of activation, level of energy in the body. We'll do these things together separately. A 1 would be very bottom, dark blue. 5 is mid-range. 10 is the top red end, keeping in mind that the mind and the body can have different numbers. That sound good? 1, 5, 10. Any questions before we begin our practice together? I can leave this up for a minute too, so I don't mind leaving the window of tolerance up here for just a minute. Any questions before we do this first practice together? And Beth, I can't see the chat right now. Okay, you can. Good. Okay, so why don't we start by doing this? And this will be a very short practice, just a couple minutes as we explore both. So just taking an upright posture, allowing the eyes to close if that feels supportive. And if not, we can downcast our gaze. And to begin, we'll just notice any mental activity. So noticing what occupies the mind. Does it seem to be calm and at ease? Perhaps still busy from the day, maybe even hectic, thinking about what needs done next. Maybe something else altogether. Just getting the observer quality as we notice the mental activity and assigning a baseline number to this. And as we have that number identified, shifting attention now into the body and gently scanning for physiological sensations coming from the body. And this might mean gently scanning the throat, dropping awareness to the heart. And if the heartbeat is detectable, noticing respiratory. Is the breathing at ease or shallow or steady or something else altogether? Wrapping awareness to the gut and the stomach, noticing any sensations there may be. Just opening awareness for any other information, not hunting anything down too hard, just opening awareness, maybe noticing the temperature of the skin. And where are the hands? Are they at ease or tense? Assigning a baseline number to the body, noticing any activation in the body. And as we have that number identified, together to close the practice, bringing awareness to the breath and following one natural cycle of the breath. Thank you for your practice. So, keeping in mind that those two numbers may be the same or they may be different, I am wondering if I'm going to stop sharing so that I can see. Okay, I'm wondering if you would be willing to either write in chat or come up on screen the baseline number for mental activity. Anybody want to share? Yeah, mental 6, okay. 3, 8. Yeah, my number's about a 7. It was Jaden. Okay, 4, 8. Yep. 5. Good. 4. Okay, kind of nice. Yeah, you guys. Not that there's a good or bad or right or wrong, but keeping in mind that window of tolerance is kind of where we're looking to bring ourselves back to if we are, yep, Rita 10. I relate very much. Just going back through here, 6, 3, 8, 4, 8, 6. Okay, and if you're willing, I would love to see the numbers on activation in the body. What was the baseline in the body? Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Okay. Patricia, you had the same. And the body 6. Okay. Ish. Okay. Okay. Yeah, long day. We've done a practice or two, so there might be a little less activation in the body, maybe for those reasons, maybe other reasons. So sometimes we'll notice that the body follows suit, right? With where our mental activity is. Sometimes we see a difference. Okay, great. My mind had about a 7, and my body is very much a 4, like maybe even 3, 4, but like a 4. So I do know that I've got some hectic things in my mind. I know how I'm relating to it, so I'm well aware. In fact, this is a good time to share. The awareness in and of itself is not enough. Because if we have awareness without the skills to self-regulate, sometimes we're just living with the awareness of our pain and discomfort. Does that make sense? And so being aware that my mental activity is where it is, and sometimes painful, meaning suffering from judgment, resentment, worry, doubt, fear, all those things. But then to be aware and have those skills to be able to then regulate back into the window of tolerance is part of what we're kind of exploring here now. Any other reflection on a baseline check? And as we become skilled, I would encourage you. In fact, I'll name homework right now because I know sometimes at the end, I don't always name the extra homework. It's always to continue to grow in our practice time until we're achieving like 15 to 20 minutes of practice a day as a lifestyle. That's kind of what we're aiming toward, somewhere between 15 to 20 minutes. But to begin to do a baseline check 1 to 2 times a day while out in the world. So you can use it in your personal protected time as well, but to use a baseline check and just checking in on these things, staying connected to our awareness of our mental state, our physiological state, what is our system telling us, and what can we be doing to support our nervous system health so that we can be a little more in the window if we find ourselves moving in and out of it. So just adding a quick literally 15-20 second baseline check of the mind, baseline check of the body in our days. And I'll invite you to begin doing that here in the next couple weeks before we join again. Any other reflection? Anybody surprised by what they found when they went checking on their thoughts or checking on their physical sensations? Sometimes I feel like, who invited you here? Like, stop it. Who invited you in my head a little bit? And so much, I am so reminded by some of the things that I have going on personally right now. I am so reminded that where we focus our attention is what creates our experience, not only in the body, but in mood, attitude, how we're relating to other people, and so on. So this ability to really kind of notice what I'm focused on, notice how I'm relating to it. And if I want to clean up my act or feel a little better, I can redirect my attention where I want to something else. Very empowering too, by the way. Very empowering. Yeah. So then the other thing that I would want to say is as we were doing the baseline check in the body, we were doing an interoception practice. So you notice that we did, we checked in on, some organs. We checked in on the throat. We became aware of heart rate or heartbeat. We checked in on respiratory. Does our breathing feel at ease? We checked in on stomach, and then an invitation just kind of broaden and open our awareness, kind of a zoom out to become aware of anything else that the body wants to tell us. We're checking in on this as we do. This is the interoception practice. Do I have any dog lovers or dog owners in the space? You guys ever notice that our dogs are kind of onto this even a little before we are sometimes? I let myself go too far into yep. Okay, Patricia. Okay. Yes, Patricia. So I let myself get too far into thought on this issue that I'm contending with right now. And I'm telling you what, I no more than went from probably a 5 to a 9, and my retriever was by my side like that. He felt and detected my stress response going on in my body in seconds. So this ability to attune, like he's got a mammalian nervous system too, and they are attuning, just like as adults, we are co-regulating at all times. We talked about this week 1. Mammalian nervous systems are attuning to us, and because they're not distracted by concepts that are trained out of them, they are literally aware of our nervous system state. Yeah, and that unconditional love. Heck yes. Yeah, Rita, you know what I'm talking about too. Yeah. Yeah. So dogs are just incredibly aware. And actually there are service dogs that are there to kind of interrupt some of that uh tension, anxiety, and so on. Yeah. Really cool. Any thoughts, questions, or reflection? I want you to know that as we did the baseline check for the body, we were doing an interoception practice. This is what I want to invite you to consider adding to your daily practice throughout the next couple weeks. Doesn't need to be formal, doesn't need to be long. It's just stopping and taking a moment to kind of drop awareness into the body, begin to understand what the body is walking with. And then as we get more familiar with the practices that support us in our own protected time, we're going to know micro practices that we can begin incorporating once we do these baseline checks. Does this make sense? Well, we can know these small things. You guys learned from me that my right bower is that down regulating breath, activating the parasympathetic nervous system, coming from that hyper aroused response, dropping, down regulating so that I can get into my window. But of course, we have other practices that help us to upregulate. And then we're going to do one practice right now before our break. I want to make sure I leave space for any other questions or reflection. But we're going to do a practice right now that if you find that your numbers are kind of, 2 and 10, or, 9 and 1, or you feel like you're kind of far apart, we're going to do a practice and it's simply called counting breath. The objective of the practice is to get the count of the in breath and the count of the out breath to be close to the same count. And this will help to bring some balance into the nervous system. Okay. So I'll guide us in that before our break. But before I do, any questions or reflection right now on the skill of interoception and the purpose and the quality of building skill in a baseline check? Okay. Okay. All right. Well, why don't we do this practice again? This is a supportive practice to add to your repertoire. So for your, regular daily practice, you may use this. But again, if you are doing baselines and finding that there's a big jump between the two, what this practice also does is it begins to tend to and repair nervous system health. So it's just one more thing that we can be adding that nourishes the nervous system and over time will help repair nervous system damage done from toxic stress, chronic stress, and trauma. Okay. Okay. So this practice will only be just a few minutes. I'll invite you to get into a comfortable position, sitting upright yet relaxed, and allowing the eyes to close if this feels right for you. And we will invite awareness to connect to the breath. And over the course of the next 2 or 3 cycles of the breath, counting the in breath for each cycle. Just becoming aware of the length of the in breath. And once we have a general idea of the length of the in breath, shifting attention now to the out breath. And for 2 or 3 cycles of the breath, counting the length of the out breath. Once we have that number identified, if one side of the breath is shorter, beginning to extend the length of that breath by 1 count. So just gently extending and lengthening the shorter length of the breath. The in-breath and the out-breath had the same count, inviting you to lengthen both by 1 count. As we do this, we're not causing strain or efforting too much. Just beginning to the in-breath and the out-breath to the same count. We'll take 1 or 2 cycles of the breath now to allow for longer extended out breath. So just extending the exhale comfortably by a count or 2. And inviting the breath to return to its natural rhythm. And as we feel ready, beginning to blink eyes and bring awareness back into our space. And counting 1 cycle of the in-breath with eyes open. Thank you for your practice. Any reflection on that practice? Give me a thumbs up if you found it easy to follow. Same as at nap time, Patricia. Patricia, your homework is to take a nap after our class tonight. Okay, yes, yes. Megan, yeah. Okay. Hey, Megan, do you want a nap? Order 2? Okay. Me. So Megan, you're giving me thumbs up that in Amber too, that you were able to access the practice. You could count and follow the practice easily. Okay, very good. Very good. Yes, yes, Andy, thank you. Yes, Rita. Yes, Jen. Okay, good. So for those of you that were able to connect to that easy enough, follow the guided practice. You're also, again, sending blood flow to the prefrontal cortex, strengthening the PFC, increasing brain health, and then also inducing emotion regulation and the other things the PFC is responsible for. So all of these practices, you guys, we can be tending to our nervous system health in these small doses that support us throughout the day. Yeah. We want baseline to kind of be in the window in general, and that we begin to notice when we leave our window, and then we're pulling things out to support us. Any reflection or questions on that practice? Okay. So it's 5 of. If you'd like, we can take, is it normal to resist coming back? Yeah, when it feels nourishing, yes, it's very normal. Even when I guide sometimes, Patricia, when I'm feeling particularly soothed by a practice, particularly when I've left my window, like when I know I've left my window and then I get to practice, I definitely resist coming back. I always want to extend it just a little bit longer. That one, super relaxed. Okay, great. Then Rita, please remember it. Please write that down in your journal or your notes or however you're tracking the things that you find supportive, because this is what I want you using in morning practice. You guys, I hope you're hearing from me. Use the practices that feel supportive, set the other ones aside for the moment. This is what's going to help us to get into practice. It's kind of like a workout. We all know our favorite workouts, and we also know the ones we don't feel like doing. I am a lot more inclined to hit the basement really fast when I know it's chest day, because it's an easy workout for me to start and I'm happy to do it. I'm going to go down and do it. Likewise with this, find the practices that support you, the ones that you know are easy to get into, the ones that you feel nourish your nervous system. Use those in your daily practice. Okay. The name of the game is really getting the prefrontal cortex strengthened, number one, so that we're increasing and improving nervous system health overall. Okay. So does it feel like a good time for a short break, 5-minute break? You guys feel like we could use one? Could take a 5-minute break, or we could keep going. Give me a thumbs up if you want a break right now. Or keep going and I could let you out 5 minutes early. I got a 5 minutes early from Kim. Okay. I don't mind either way. If Beth, you don't mind, keep going, either works. Okay. We'll keep going then. We'll keep going. That sounds good. Patricia's good. Everybody's good. You have every opportunity to speak out if you are not. So, or of course, if you just need to pop up, you may do that too. So here are some things that then I want to tie back. I want to kind of circle back to, and our week 3 trauma sensitive discussion topic is awareness of somatic markers. So through our interoception practice, the invitation is to begin checking in on somatic markers. And somatic markers, in the context of what we're talking about here, are these bits of information, these physiological sensations that we can check in on purpose. And somatic markers are actually some of them are conscious. We can be consciously aware, like if we get a hunger pain and we feel like, oh, I'm hungry, I haven't eaten. Some of them are subconscious, like we might have an elevated heart rate because of something that we're relating to, but we might not realize it. Does this make sense? So they're conscious and subconscious, but somatic markers are these little cues that our body's giving us. That is information. And remember, we pointed to this a little bit ago, body keeps the score means that sometimes we're relating to something in a way that feels threatening, but there's no true threat. The more we're checking in and noting these somatic markers and working with these for ourselves first, we can then begin to create, through our own self-regulation, safe experiences of things that once maybe did not feel safe. Does meaning if I'm having an elevated heart rate, but there's no true threat, it's how I'm relating to something. And maybe it's reminding me of something from the past. Even smells are like somatic markers, those old, smells that are familiar and sometimes can take you right back to an old experience. And it might make you feel a certain way, the way you felt in the past about an experience. These somatic markers are information. But that doesn't mean that that same information, the information that we're feeling or experiencing, is necessarily unsafe, for example. So if I have something that's giving me elevated heart rate, I might say, oh no, well, I got a bad feeling about that. But if we can begin to check in on the elevated heart rate, begin to regulate the nervous system, give our bodies an opportunity to have a felt sense of safety, and get our executive function online, our decision-making, our executive function, our emotion regulation, now we're working with a fuller scope of our capacity to actually discern well what is safe, what is not. I want you to know we can never practice the fight flight response out of our body. So we're never going to be at risk of not being able to protect ourselves in that way. Does that make sense? I don't know if I shared the story about a client. I had a 19-year-old young man say, well, I don't want to practice meditation because if I really have to save my life, I won't have that capacity then. And this is so primitively ingrained in our nervous system that we're not going to meditate our way out of the fight flight response. It's not going to eradicate that from our system. Does this make sense? I don't know if it's connecting or not. It's hard for me to tell. So these markers, we have an opportunity to stay aware of and connect back to somatic markers, these physiological feelings and sensations. We can explore them as we regulate the nervous system. We can signal safety to our nervous system as we explore those. And then we can use our most sophisticated neurocircuitry to then begin to discern where some of those feelings are coming from. Does this make sense? Yeah, okay. So as we begin to do that for ourselves, a skill that we're able to bring into the classroom or when working with youth or in general, like remembering that we co-regulate as adults even. So just as we begin noticing, we can begin tracking our own nervous system first. As we get skilled in this, we can also then begin to, as we join with others, we can begin to notice and track information that we're seeing coming from other individuals. Now, that doesn't mean we can know what they're feeling. It doesn't mean that we can know unless they name explicitly, but as we can track how we're relating, it can invite us to a more open experience of how others are relating as well. Are you with me? So just this invitation to begin noticing ourselves, tracking our own nervous system when we are having a situation at work, in the classroom, in relationship. It doesn't matter where. This applies everywhere, of course. You know, part of what we're joining here together for in this particular sub community is we all care very much about youth and supporting their well-being and supporting their learning and supporting learning environments in some way. And so quite often we kind of jump to conclusions, but if we can track our own nervous system, how we're relating, and then begin to kind of explore with curiosity how they can be relating or what might be going on in their experience, getting curious about their experience, this can support the felt sense of safety in the classroom for them. Instead of arriving at conclusions, we can begin to get curious. Because what we'll notice about ourselves actually then delivers us to some compassion. This is where self-compassion is born, when we can kind of do this shoulders back, honest moral inventory on our own stuff, so to speak. And that's where then compassion for others builds as well. So I've been talking a lot. Any reflection or questions? Really, for those of us that are in practice every week, whether it's every day or a few times a week, or something on a regular basis, this should be connecting. This ability to kind of notice our nervous system state, get more skilled at tracking the nervous system. All of this material builds intentionally. And so this is where we can begin to get very skilled in knowing our own experience and how we're relating, getting a little bit of distance between noticing and responding or reacting. And then we can also begin kind of noticing how we connect with others. No thoughts, no questions, no reflections. Okay, so how about a quick breakout? And if Beth would be willing to manage the breakout, I'm thinking about 3 people in each room, Beth, if that's okay with you. And we're just going to reflect on with your small group how a baseline may support you in your workday. Understanding some of you are educators, teachers in a classroom, and some of you hold other different position types as school professionals, whatever that might be. How would a baseline, yes, be supportive in your workday, getting skilled with a baseline check? And I would love to be in a breakout room if you're willing to put me in one too. Okay, I liked the practical example. Can you give another on how we can help when we have an agitated student? Yeah, I don't mind doing that before we break out. Um, I think if you know you have an agitated student in front of you, getting our okay, this is actually great for our first and foremost checking our own somatic markers. How am I relating to that? How do I know that, like, how am I relating? Is it giving me like elevated heart rate? Am I getting irritated? Is my neck getting red? Am I getting frustrated, annoyed, impatient? Or am I feeling helpless? Or, all these different things begin to inform us on how we ourselves are relating. So if it's moving us into the red, first of all, we can down regulate. If it's moving us into the blue, we can up regulate. Sometime I'll tell you a story about kind of noticing the difference on something that I had happen. But then what we can do is we can get really curious. One of my best pieces of advice, Patricia, is to get real curious about the student. So if the student is actively naming agitation, once we've gotten ourselves in check, meaning we've noticed how we're relating, if we need to get back into the window, we've done it. We can do it in short order now because we're practicing in the morning in our own protected time when the sky's not falling, so that when these moments hit, I can get myself back into my window if I notice myself leaving. Now I'm embodied in a regulated state. I have an ability to offer my regulated nervous system to a student who's agitated. And as I do, now I can become curious in a way that doesn't challenge them. So we're not challenging them, like, what are you so irritated about? But we are becoming curious in a way that helps us we seek to understand them. So do you want to give me an example or maybe even role play what that scenario might be like in your workday, Patricia? You can speak out if you want to.
It could be that they're upset because maybe their grade is lower than they wanted, or they're not taking responsibility for doing the work that was necessary for the assignment, and they're more upset than maybe agitated.
Okay. Okay. Yep. So we might hear them out. Number one, I know a lot of times our go-to as people who care a great deal is to try and appease or fix. And so instead, I would invite us to consider maybe just saying, asking to hear from them, what are you experiencing? And if they name frustration, maybe even saying, okay, I understand. How do you know you're frustrated? What does it feel like in the body? Keeping in mind as we explore with curiosity, genuine curiosity, inviting them to name their experience in the body or how they know they're frustrated or how they know they're angry or how they know. Even them bringing their awareness back inward towards their body will help to stimulate that blood flow to their prefrontal cortex too. And when we ourselves are embodied and they are attuning to us, they are feeling a safe nervous system. They're not explicitly going, she's safe, but their nervous system's certainly feeling that if you're somebody available in that way. I'm here, I'm safe, let's connect kind of thing without the words. As we invite them to explore that, they can begin to name what they're feeling. We can honor that experience accordingly. Share that you understand if you truly do. Acknowledge it. And if it feels like overwhelm or if it feels like an intense feeling, even naming that must be very intense for you. I'm sorry. Staying present with them until they are back in their own window of tolerance is one of the greatest things that we can be doing in these scenarios. So the practice doesn't promise that the world is going to be perfect or that we're going to have all A's because now we're practicing and we should be getting all right. So life is still happening. We want to feel some sense of safety, security, embodiment as we move through life. The more we tend to ourselves for this first, the more we can offer an embodied, regulated nervous system to the youth we serve. And they are borrowing on that every time they connect with us. When their attention is toward us and we're regulated, this is going to start to bring them back into their window as well. But we're not trying to fix, we're not trying to make sure they know all is fine. We want them to arrive at that felt experience on their own. And so if we can honor their experience, get curious about their experience, begin to invite them to name what that experience is, giving them that skill to begin naming. So often I see teenagers sometimes have intense emotions and then not be able to describe it. And we know through science, 2 or more physical feelings make up an emotion. And the difference between feelings and emotions, our feelings are the felt experience, emotion is the language that we put to it. And we can help them build these skills to be able to identify that which they're feeling into words in a skillful way so they can be self-expressive in a skillful way. Yeah? Does this make sense? Is that helpful at all?
Yes, that was great. Thanks.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for the question. Do we want to take our 5 minutes on a quick breakout? It'll take us to 17, and I still want to give us a good body scan at the end. Anybody have any? I can make it participant's choice. It would either be a longer body scan or 5-minute breakout with a shorter body scan. So if you want the breakout and body scan, put your thumb up right now. Okay, Patricia, if you want just a longer body scan and no call outs if you fall asleep, put your thumb in the air. I'm going to be really honest with you guys. You're a tough crowd tonight. I love you all, and it's a tough one. The body scan longer. Okay. Okay. We're going to do a longer body scan. Okay. And then anybody that wants to stay after our end time, I do continue to stay online and I'm available. So if you want to reflect, if you want to do some breakout question, if you want to connect on any of these concepts after, I stay available after our end time. Okay. So then why don't we get into a comfortable position, and I want you to know you're invited this week to practice seated lying down or standing up. Since we are in a virtual community here, if you're in an environment that allows you to lie down and feel safe, you are very welcome to do a body scan lying down tonight. We're going to be able to do about a 10-minute practice, 10, 11-minute practice. And again, we are continuing to cultivate this mind-body connection so that we are more than a neck-up society. We are very connected to the experiences that we're having into the body as well. And as we get into a comfortable position, if we're lying down on the back, just inviting you maybe to have something underneath your knees so the low back doesn't dump. If we are on the ground with pretzel legs, just maybe having the hips slightly elevated above the knees, supporting our hip joints. And making any other slight adjustments that might be needed to find comfort in your posture and in the body. And to begin, I'll invite attention to the feet and just scanning awareness across the toes, allowing the feet and the ankles to completely let go and relax. Maybe noticing if the feet are connected to anything, or perhaps they're suspended in the air in some way. Just gently scanning awareness on the toes and the feet and the ankles, and allowing them to let go and relax completely. Inviting awareness up to the calves and the shins. Allowing the muscles below the knees to relax. Maybe noticing if there's any clothing or blanket, anything resting on the skin. Scanning around the knees and bringing attention up and becoming aware of the quads, so the upper parts of the legs, muscles along the front of the legs, allowing these to let go and relax completely. And gently scanning the hamstrings, the muscles along the backs of the legs. Again, noticing any area that they may be supported by a chair or the ground or a cushion. Just allowing the legs to become heavy. Allowing for complete relaxation in the legs. And scanning awareness now to the hip flexors and the sit bones and the bottom. Inviting relaxation around this entire area. Just a gentle letting go. We're seated, maybe sinking just a bit heavier into the sit bones. If we're lying down, maybe inviting a bit of expansion or an opening into the hip flexors. Not efforting too much. We're just inviting release. Becoming aware of the lower abdomen and gently scanning attention from the low abdomen up through the stomach muscles and gently letting go of anything that we may be holding. These muscles in the belly. Maybe checking in on digestion, how the stomach feels. Maybe noticing there could be some hunger, or maybe satiated and feeling full, or perhaps no sensation at all. Just noticing, inviting release, complete relaxation. Becoming aware of the lower back. Just noticing, is there any tightness or any holding? Can we let go just a bit? Allowing any tension or holding to drain with gravity into the ground. As we invite full relaxation in these muscles in the lower back. And also scanning awareness up the spine and the muscles along the sides of the spine. And inviting relaxation in these muscles as well. Becoming aware of the muscles across the backs of the shoulders to the tops of the shoulders. This tends to be an area that we hold tension, and so just inviting a complete release and letting go. Allowing for complete relaxation across the shoulders. And noticing how we're holding the arms. Are they completely relaxed? Allowing the arms to become heavy. Gently scanning the biceps and triceps. The elbows and the forearms. Noticing what may be supporting the arms. Becoming aware of the hands and the fingers. Allowing the fingers to completely let go and relax. Allowing the arms to become heavy. Scanning awareness across the gate of the chest. Allowing shoulders to relax and let go, and the chest to be at ease. We may check in on the heartbeat that's available. Inviting awareness now to the throat and the neck, the muscles in the neck. Allowing for complete relaxation. The muscles in the neck. Perhaps this might mean some movement or just a gentle letting go. Bringing awareness now to the muscles in the face. Inviting relaxation in the muscles in the cheeks. Just gently letting the cheeks relax. Inviting the low jaw to drop just a bit. And the muscles around the eyes and between the eyes to relax completely. Releasing any tension there may be around the eyes, between the eyes and the forehead. And inviting you now in your own minds to scan from the top of the head, gently back down the body to the bottom of the feet for any areas that might need more release or letting go or relaxation. And I'll let my voice drop for a 30-second period of silence as we scan in our own minds for this. Mm. Gently shifting attention now back to the breath as we look to bring our practice to a close. Together, we'll follow one deep, soothing breath in our own minds. And as we feel ready, beginning to blink eyes and bring awareness back into our space together. And inviting movement, gentle movement into the body. You may wish to roll wrists, wiggle toes, move what wants to move, and gently stretch what wants to stretch. And as you feel ready, just gently rejoining our space. And for your practice, you are welcome to stay in that practice if you would like. And if a nap is an option for you, I'd invite you to take that nap for sure. Yeah, thank you, Patricia. Good, good. I'm glad. Any reflection on the practice before we close our time together? Thank you, Kim. Thank you. Is everyone well for the moment? Beautiful. The homework is simply continue to practice, increasing your time a little bit again, and doing the practice of a baseline check throughout the day. I will stay online here for anybody that may wish to connect after the close of our time. Otherwise, thank you for your practice. Keep practicing and keep taking good care. I'll see you in 2 weeks for our final session. Thank you. Yes, thank you, Jaden. For sure. Thank you, Kim. Thank you. Yeah. Thank you. Good, good. You're welcome, Amber. You are welcome, Brittany. Sure. Yes. Thank you, Patricia, for all your contributions to our time, too. Thank you, Rita. Thank you, Rita. I'm glad. I'm very glad. Good, good.
Rachel, will you give us more information on how we can do even deeper sessions on our next and our last meeting?
So as in deeper, you mean longer, more extended practice?
Not only practice, but education. Hmm.
Oh, like more content.
Hmm.
Like how do we continue learning?
Yes, yeah,
Okay.
because my college, and I was the one that had 40 years in law enforcement and de-escalation. So my college is really tapping me to try and figure out how we can connect with our students. And this is a community college. And so a lot of our peeps are have got a good amount of trauma in the background. So I've got Samsa Gaines behind me with our trauma informed training, but de-escalation and understanding at least not how to make situations worse
Yeah.
is 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 imperative
Yeah.
for the growth of our students. So,
Yeah.
so
Okay, I love the question. And I'll tell you what, I know through BGSU right now, Beth and I, we've been up to something for a while now
thank you,
together.
Beth. You are
Yeah, Beth and I
spectacular.
have been up to some things together. I have a module or two that right now BGSU has open, right? Beth, do you know how much longer they're open?
They're open for participants through the end of November, and then we'll run another cycle again in March and April.
Okay. So I might have one or two that I could recommend based on what you've just shared about that. Um, and I'm happy to direct you to the titles. And then Beth, what would be the best way I don't know if Patricia's in that system or not.
I think she's probably, I don't know, I can't remember if you've done any before or not. Let me share my screen real quick.
I've I've attended many of your programs,
The
and this is
actual training.
where, yeah,
These are
I
totally online independent ones. You work through these independently. Rachel, I can scroll through the list.
Sure, yeah, because I can point out a couple right now that I know I'm thinking of. One of them is what I speak on this Thursday, Beth, social engagement system.
Okay.
Um, and I don't know, Patricia, what your location is, but
yeah, I teach all of our special needs group, and I'm the only one in the state that does our advanced autism class through the
oh,
Attorney General's office. So I'm teaching 8 to 5 with the advanced autism class.
okay.
Hey, Beth, I just they asked me to teach at their international conference, and they sent me in August down to Orlando, Florida, to present at their it's Project Lifesaver. It's about autism and Alzheimer's and everything. So, yay! That was nice.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Beautiful. I love it. So you've come across a good one here. Yep. Social engagement system, the architecture for feeling safe in connections. I think that would be good based on what you're sharing with me right now. And the nervous system health one that was right above it continues to take us deeper into some of the understanding of toxic stress, chronic stress, trauma. So you're pointing to, there's trauma running in the background.
Hmm.
And by the way, that's most of us, even knowing that that's
Oh
most
yeah,
of us. And so, yeah,
yeah.
in some way, it allows us to be more compassionate and prepared.
Yeah, there's no class that I go into that I don't assume everyone
There you
has
go. Yeah.
some trauma in their background. It's
Yeah.
like, dudes, what world are you living in?
Yeah, yeah. So I do think these two right here, nervous system health and social engagement system, those two I think would be a great start. Starting with really that social engagement system is what I might do. We don't have anything at the moment. Beth and I don't have anything at the moment planned as like a live virtual um, offering. But I think these two in the meantime would allow you to continue to dig into the content. And it continues to build. What I love is that you will have the 4 weeks of the introductory series under your belt. So to continue to build on that with these two would be great.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you both. You're
And stay close
wonderful.
as needed. Okay. So are you, Patricia.
Okay.
I appreciate all your contributions to our time.
Sure. Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you
You're
so
either in or you're out, people.
much. I hear ya. I hear you, sister. Yeah. Okay.
All
Take
right.
good care.
Enjoy.
Thank you. You do the same. Thank you.